Off the bottom as well. Great quite a bit of the details so that it's always present. Main thing that I want you guys to be thinking about is not conceding the position, right? If Ian's passing my guard, right, it's not fight to keep him in the guard and then give up and then start fighting again, right? It doesn't make any sense to set yourself back from there. So if he's just going nice and slow here, Toriando, right, go that way, just shoot the camera. Right, so I don't want to just let him pass, fight him within the open guard, and then try to fight from this position. As he's in, I should be trying to block him, I should be hip escaping, I should be aiming with my knee. So the simple way of thinking about this, guys, is just to go into a field position, but just by keeping some resistance, right? For him to flatten me out, for him to get position, I need to be open, right? So if he's passing, even if I don't resist, but if I just stay in a ball, like for him to actually, he has to pierce the ball to be able to actually get position on it. So just think about that. Always when the guy's passing or getting into position, block the position, start to escape the position before it's even been solidified. So just remember that. And again, if you've ever tried to get position on someone who just does this, it's really, really difficult. Okay? Now, he is in position though. So hand positions that we were working with, they're standard frame, shoulder, hip, watch your wrist though, guys. And then as he drops in here, my hand should end up in the right spot. Okay, I don't want my elbow stuck. I don't want to be hugging him, holding him in the position, because then from here, for me to find my position again, it's going to be really tough. But let's say worst case scenario happens. He was able to catch me. I made a mistake. I got caught. I'm late. I already messed up. Okay, arms were outside. I don't have my frame. First thing, I don't want to let him dominate the side. I will not be able to hip escape. If he's able to drive his knee underneath my shoulder here, exactly, and have this arm trapped, I'll never be able to hip escape effectively because my shoulders can't turn either, right? So knee pressure always, and let's start with that, guys. Knee pressure. My knee isn't just digging into his rib cage, it's trying to find the connection of the hip and the leg. That's going to give me the most space. I've talked about this before, but you can see how my knee is above his body here. As it slides towards the connection, just my thigh touching his thigh, my knee drops down in height, which means I have more room, right, to be able to slip underneath. Also, again, his knee is here, hip here, body this way. I have far more space within that V, right, to be able to slip through. I'm not fighting against his rib cage and his body, and also I can't move myself through the mat down, so I'm always going to have to be turning to find my space for my knee to slide in. So always, 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 guys, knee not just driving into his ribs, off to the side. Last thing, again, you see this all the time in MMA, dude's doing this, okay? Here, my foot resting. First of all, I can get tied up here if he reaches back with his arm and loops through my leg from the outside. Yeah, exactly. Here, now I'm stuck. At least this is going to create an issue, otherwise he just put himself in the bicep slicer potentially. Okay, so I want to make sure that it's a constant pressure. You don't have to be gassing out your hip flexor with doing this, but it needs to be real pressure. I'm using this leg for my mobility and my power. This never goes away. That way, if he ever makes a mistake of trying to pop up too high to go knee on belly, my knee is on a spring. It's going to drive in. You get that connection without even having to hip escape. Okay, so back to the arms. To get your frame, this elbow should be the easy one to get though. Same way that we're trying to get our elbow or our knee through the hip, I'm going to find that space right in here between the hip and the leg. Don't try and jam it in here, okay? Especially if he's closing that space up, right? You'll never get through this side. Just pop that elbow down and then hide the hip. Remember, protect your wrists. I don't want to be basing like this on his hip, because if he switches his base facing my legs, then you're going to get your wrist cranked over, and I have seen people get injured from that. So be careful. It's a cup, so I have a vise to push into the knee. This arm's a little bit more difficult. If he's playing tight, I can get myself into issues here. First of all, it's going to be super difficult to get my arm underneath his jaw or underneath his neck to refine my frame. And also too, as soon as my hand comes in front of his face, then he may catch a key lock or tie up my arm or an arm triangle, something along those lines. So what we have to do to create the space realistically is we're going to have to bridge. Now I'm going to hit him with my biceps. So my leg here is going to step a little bit wider towards his head to give myself a little more power. Because if I want to roll him back this way, my structure isn't there and he starts pushing back, my hip gets dominated. So I need to make sure I widen my hip so that I have more power to bridge. So my bicep again is going to punch. Okay, when I bridge, I push his head as far over as I can with my bicep here. Now I don't try and drag my arm back in. I rotate at the elbow. I'm here, and then now my elbow is able to clear it. Very important detail. Again, elbow inside, knee pressure I already have. Then from here, step wide, punch him in the face with your bicep as you bridge, boom, and then rotate at the elbow and bring it back in. Now, this may be a bit uncomfortable for your partner, but he has the option of giving you the room, so don't feel bad for him. Okay? Now we have everything we need. So first one, standard hip escape. All I'm going to do is step wide again, and again, I don't want my leg extended because then my hips don't have power. I step as close to my butt as I can, and again, stepping towards his head. Now, simultaneous pressure. I push with my elbows and my forearms, not my hands. If I push with my hands, that means I'm going to push him back, and also I'm putting myself at the furthest point of the lever, which means that I'm going to be feeling the weight as much as possible. Push here like a forklift. I'm driving with my chest, and my elbows drive up. Step, hip escape, drive. Okay? My knee goes in. Now, a lot of people, I don't like it when people under hip escape, but you can also over hip escape. I don't need to be way out here, right? I just open my position up. There we go.
Magic.
Magic. All right. So, we got our frame. So, this is why I need a camera, not a phone. So anyways, guys, step. As I hip escape, I'm driving with my elbows. My knee slides in. Now, as soon as the knee slides in, you're not out, okay? The key thing with the hip escape is to try and get onto your shoulder. So as I go here, now I'm going to push with my hands, and I'm going to try and drive my shoulders away from him. But where the power comes from, yes, definitely pushing, but it's the knee and the hip here. So if he just postures up for a second, it's not me doing this here, it's this pressure. My hip, just like you're doing an arm bar, is driving forward to create the separation. That's where you get the power. And that's how you're gonna break the guy's third body way. Okay? Step, elbow and forearm driving. As I hip escape, knee in, and then I focus on the upper body, creating separation. Again, drag your your bottom shoulder down. Now, this hand here isn't gonna be helping anymore. You can see I can barely keep my hand at the hip. What's more important now is to block the cross face. So as soon as I created that space, my hand sneaks underneath, and I block the bicep to block the cross face. Now, upper knee, very important. It's going to loop through and slide up. Just watch your partner's chin on the way up, or not. Depends on how much you like them. And then I block the shoulder here. Because if this knee isn't in, when he's pressuring back, because he's not just going to go, oh, he got me, I'm just going to go willfully into his guard. He's going to be pressuring forward, right? If this knee isn't here, and I'm trying to close my guard, he's going to collapse that space and then mess you up. Back position. Drive, slide the shoulder down, or back rather, and block the bicep. Knee up top here. Now, if he's putting weight on me, this leg here, you put weight on me, right? This leg is able to move and do stuff because this is holding the weight, okay? So knee up top, and then now from here, foot should be able to clear to the hip, and then I turn, gathering up his arms at the same time, and close it, okay? One more time. Start from the very beginning here, so don't do this, guys, okay? Because we get stuck. So knee pressure always. If you don't have knee pressure and you're focusing on your arms, then all of a sudden he's out, right? This is always a block. Elbow down, step, bicep pushes his head away, loop at the elbow, and then reset. You could hip escape right off that bridge too. But again, step again, hip escape, driving with the elbows and forearms, knee in, slide the shoulder away, block the cross face, top knee comes in to block. You should feel strong here. If you're tall and you feel kind of jammed up, just hip escape again, give yourself the room. Now the big mistake in this position that most beginners make is that they got their knee through, they may even have this knee, and then they start trying to flatten out and then get their leg through from there. But you notice that I don't have much dexterity in my body this way because I can't go through the mat and it's very difficult to go through him. So I have mobility though, this way and this way. So until you get your foot to the hip, you don't turn. Last step is the turn. And turn. Okay? Sweet. Let's go. I'm gonna block that number. It's that or it's bill collector. So next stage, the big thing with that standard hip escape, and you should be pretty proficient in that, right? So now we don't make a mistake, okay? Our arms are always in, our knee pressure is always in, we're containing the guy. A lot of times though, when someone's really trying to pin you and is trying to hold strong, you hip escape, they're following up with your hips so quickly that you just don't have the space for it. So you guys have seen this before again. What I'm going to do is I need distance, posture per sec. I need space between us to be able to get my knee through, right, and be able to close the guard. So I need to find a way of transferring space. So what I'm going to do is create space underneath us instead, because no matter how big or strong the guy is, you should always be able to lift your hips. It's your legs, right? Your legs are extremely strong. So when I go here, instead of just hip escaping where I feel like I get blocked, what I'm going to do instead is try and put him over his heel. So I'm going to bridge as high as I can, and same thing as before. I'm going to step my leg out to give me more power, and you want to be thinking about checking out, like seeing if there's anybody sneaking up behind us here. So I'm going to bridge and look. Now from this stage here, you saw all the space I created. So now all I have to do is transfer between us. And all I'm going to have to do is now drop and hip escape. My frame pushes. My knee drops in. Now key detail with this is that, just to exaggerate this, okay, hold on, is that I'm not pushing on the way up, okay? It's only hip. So I bridge and then I push and drop. If I push as I bridge, first of all, I'm fighting myself. My legs are trying to lift me while my arms are trying to push me down, right? You end up fighting. It's countering your own strength. Also, too, you elicit a response. He doesn't care if I'm wasting energy moving my hips around if I'm not going anywhere, right? He's not going to resist that as much. But if I start trying to create separation, that's where he really latches on and buckles down. So if I push and bridge at the same time, he flattens you out. So again, I need to make sure that my arms do nothing, okay? They're just in place. Big, strong bridge, and then I push and hip escape. So my legs jacked him up, and then I put the posts in to keep him up. And that's where I get my knee in. This is the same finish. Slide away, block the crossface, pop me in, step across. As I turn, my hands collect the arms, and I close. Okay, again. Frame, knee pressure. So big bridge behind him, and then I drop and hip escape. In, okay? Big bridge, drop, push, hip escape. Okay? Now again, I'm not going straight up, straight down. I create an angle, so I'm not doing this, right? Slamming my tailbone into the mat. I'm rolling to my shoulder, and remember, I want to be on my side. So now when I hip escape, my butt goes towards you guys. Here. So I went away and away. Top me in, block the crossface, turn, and close. And that's usually the money escape. You try and do your quick. He blocks you, bridge, boom. Okay? Give that a try. This is the one that shouldn't happen. It's really based on the guy on top kind of messing up, because you can overdo your strength. And I mentioned this in the last class. Like when you're on top, you can overdo your squeeze, you can overdo your control, you can overdo your weight. But based on this sequence, first attempt, hip escape, just a standard hip escape and push. He blocks you, bridge, hip escape. He blocks you again. And the way he's going to block you is by basically slamming you back to the mat. Now this again, realistically, it shouldn't work all the time, but you have to kind of feel it out, because, and you can kind of bait guys too. So again, I try to just escape, but he got his knee back in. So I try to bridge it, but he was like throwing me back to the mat. Remember, he has to overpower your hips. He has to put a lot of weight over you and drive you back in, because I'm pushing him this way, not up, right? So he's not slamming me straight back down. He's taking me back this way on an angle. So naturally what happens here is, if I kind of get him to fight me here, if I realize he's resisting, right? Resisting, exactly, that I can switch him, right? So all I'm doing is changing the angle here. As I'm going up here, he's pushing me back, so I just switch my legs. Plant and really stomp the mat there, guys. Boom, and then now from this position, this elbow raises, Well, this hand doesn't push, because if you push with this arm, then you open his base up and you give him room for his arms to slip out potentially too. So this one just kind of tucks in. Pull him in and push up. Push and pull. Bridge, you feel the resistance. And I just force his hips back over me, and then you get your reversal. And remember, it's a reversal, it is not a sweep. Okay? Now, one other thing, we talked about this as well in side control. He wants to be perpendicular with my line, or if anything, he's moving more towards north-south, right? If he stays at my hip, going towards my legs, this way, right, more of the legs, or more of his body's on mine, so it's easier to roll him because I can get his weight, which is mostly over his hips and his legs here, to roll. So when you do this, not just lifting this way, but kind of push him over your hips. Here, he pushes back, and try and like push his hips over your body, okay, to help with the roll. And then just get on top, and then I'm here. So again, the sequence, so 1, 2, 3. So I tried hip escape 1, didn't work. Bridge hip escape, didn't work. Bait him, and on top, okay? Last little detail with that, again, watch your knee pressure. It should never disappear, except when we do a quick switch, but that's necessary for the roll. But also to here, when I'm rolling, his hands are underneath. So remember I said push at the hip and pull in. If I can kind of pinch and trap his hand so that he can't stick his arm out at the last second, that also helps too. Okay, so just give that a quick try. Partners on top, if you're just dead weight, not giving any reaction, of course it's going to be hard. Okay, so make sure you're giving some of that energy. Okay, that's last one, guys. It's just about the energy that you have to have on the bottom. Now, I've told you how this can backfire in competition a little bit, but I've always prided myself on this energy. Is you want to make the person on top be fearful, and it's a hard thing to do. But if you have the correct knee pressure and you have that constant tension with your frame, it's not like you're in a constant state of hip escape, if that's such a thing. Okay, but you want him just to constantly feel like all I can do is pin you. Now, why I say that this is important is, first of all, it means that you're going to be more successful in your escapes. But also, that means he's afraid to go on knee on belly, he's afraid to mount, he's afraid to let go any of his control, which means that he's not attacking. But in competition, if you do that, which has happened to me, you start getting stalled out because guys just clamp, right? So sometimes you have to almost open up a little bit to get them to move. So what you need to be thinking about is there's this constant tension, if you just chill for 1 sec, is that I'm constantly doing this. Just a very slight, I'm tilting my hips, dragging my hip out, my frame, elbows are pushing a bit, and my knee is really driving into the hip. It should feel like if he does any movement, that knee's inside, okay? So that's the real kind of key here. Just tuck in and just stay calm. Like I'm just here, I'm here, I'm here. I'm always just kind of checking the hip escape once in a while. And then again, if you have this tension, because it has to be real, if he does think, okay, knee on belly, I beat him. All right, my knees in, right? I didn't really have to do anything because again, that energy, if you just hop off for a sec, it's this. I'm constantly here, right? Now again, it can backfire, but because guys just then go, shit, I'm just gonna hold you. But at the same time, you should pride yourself on that, because if you get guys to be in a dominant position and scared, good. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Don't be trying to escape. Sorry, last thought is also don't try and escape when he's focused on pinning you. Okay? When Ian's on top here and he's just crushing me, he just passed, he's thinking about solidifying his 3 points, and I'm like, well, obviously he still hasn't got his 3 points. I should be going crazy to try and stop the pass points. But when I feel like he is just clamping and he isn't concerned about submitting me or mounting me or knee on belly or anything like that, then that's not the time to be exerting energy. He does have the dominant spot. He's far stronger than you here, right? So I can't be trying to go crazy trying to hip escape now. You have to wait for him to settle down a bit. That doesn't change what I was saying about keeping that energy, right? About just keeping myself primed. But that way, again, it's like the difference between having like an old gun that you with a rusted trigger and then having like a hair trigger, a sniper trigger, right? That it just feels like, you know, as soon as there's the opportunity, bang, I'm out. Okay? So again, don't fight against his strength until he starts to move around a bit. You'll be far more aware too if you keep that tension. Okay? Grab a drink, specifically.